Hi everyone, my name is Rick Vanover, and as previously introduced, I'm product strategy specialist, evangelist type here at Veeam, and I've been trying to do my best to keep up on Twitter. We got a new hashtag, 100 tweets while standing, so I think it'll catch on. So anyways, let's jump into it. What goes on in our data center? I think the problem is that, you know, just because one says you use VMware or Hyper-V, that doesn't tell me anything. What's actually inside? I feel like I am an explorer, pioneering a new land. What we really care about, we don't care about land and water. What we really care about is resources and people. That in the data center is the application. That's what these people are out to find. I'm drawing an analogy here, just so you know.
Drawing something.
I'm drawing something. But what goes on?
Is that drawing something or
It's going to be drawing fire in a second here.
The notion of an explorer in relation to Veeam, I think I was very excited when the first one came out, which was Veeam Explorer for Exchange, and then Veeam Explorer for Storage Snapshots in 6.5, which was in October of 2012. So I like to think of the opportunity that what these two have to find in, say, a new land of your data within your storage, within your virtual environment, because just saying it's VMware or Hyper-V doesn't mean anything. What I really care about are the apps. And you know, I already had some Twitter talk on this already. I like numbers, okay? I like infographics even better. And last year, this is old, I'm going to get to it, I made an infographic and I've sliced out this bit of it. That talks about 26 different restore scenarios from one agentless backup. I can't emphasize the depth of this number, and it's going to get more, and you know, this will be more. But you know, yeah, sure, we take an image-based agentless backup. We can even hit it from a storage snapshot like Doug just announced. But from there, what if you just need a file, a guest file? What if you need a Active Directory OU? What if you need a line of a SQL stored procedure that your Reckless DBA hit the other day? I mean, you could go on and on of the different ways out of a problem. Or maybe you need the whole virtual machine. What if you need your vCloud Director metadata? I mean, the depth of this number, I really like it. But that wasn't good enough. So today, the number is 26. What I do when I'm in the office, I sit next to our tech support team. I love it. They deal with the good and also the bad. You know, it's great to be the hero, right? They deal with problems. They also deal with solutions. And I said to them, every time I need an idea for like blogs or snappy tweets or something like that, I was like, hey, what should you not do? Or how many different ways can you recover? That's how we came up with that 26. I talked to them. But then, now we're at 27. And what I'm going to talk about later today, we could be up to even more. And there's even more that we're not even going to talk about. But that number,
it'll be 42.
Is that the magic number? I think that is the answer. What's the term of that? Well, it's Jackie's number, Jackie Robinson's number. I know that.
But it's
The most magical.
the answer to life, the universe, and everything.
That's it.
The answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything.
But just yesterday, Robert and I had a question, and this was well timed, or it was a dialogue. Now, Kool-Aid and Robert, by the way, I did ask their permission to highlight this conversation. Every time I mention a tweet, I always ask. But Kool-Aid had said, he was watching something else. He wasn't tuned into Storage Field Day. He had said, it's interesting to note that Veeam has shifted the conversation from backup to restore. And further, he says, we don't really talk about this backup testing thing anymore. Well, that's because, you know, it's still important to do this blanket of technology called vPower, ensure backup, right? That's a great way to ensure that VMs are recoverable not just from the infrastructure level, but also the application level. We do that, but that's honestly 4 years ago, so we don't really push it. And when it comes to item level recovery, the explorers have arrived on our continent and have allowed us to do these things so easily. So the reason why, and just because we brought it up yesterday on Twitter, I said, well, I'll slip it in there. So we're going to talk about three things today. We're going to talk about Active Directory, Veeam Explorer for Active Directory. We're going to talk about Veeam Explorer for SQL Server. That's a new one. Veeam Explorer for Active Directory is new also. It's in beta preview. We tweeted and blogged about it. And we're also going to talk about some new features for Veeam Explorer for Exchange. So all of these explorers also can work in conjunction with the storage snapshot stuff that Doug just mentioned. So if we're cracking open a backup or if we're cracking open a storage snapshot, these gateway tools can really do what they need to do quite easily. So let's talk about Active Directory. Now, I know that I might be in the minority in being a Windows, fanboy, but I do think that most organizations do indeed still use Windows, and I would go so far to say that Active Directory is arguably many organizations' most critical application. It's really the framework for all of their authentication, especially for something like Exchange, SQL, databases. DNS, if you go that route, I can't really emphasize the importance of Active Directory. I don't really think I need to, but I'd say it's in the 90+% of companies use this as their authoritative kind of infrastructure nervous system, lack of a better word, okay? So Veeam Explorer for Active Directory is solving a problem because we're taking, again, this agentless backup, we're adding additional recovery techniques. So when, in the Twitter conversation about not testing backups, we had this supplemental thing before called a UAir wizard, an application item recovery, which would power up those VMs from our backup, pick up what's missing, and gracefully drop it back in where it came from. But what do we all want today? We want things quick. I'd go so fast to say, I'll take this claim, I'll take it up with marketing later, but we live in a world with this type of approach for data protection that I think we can actually recover data faster than we can deploy new workloads. Everything from instant VM recovery and these Explorer tools, it's just wicked fast. Veeam Explorer for Active Directory, I think, really hits that home. So if you deleted an OU, that's a problem. If you even with that little box that says protect from accidental deletion, okay, the bad admin will find the little uncheck on the other tool and then go back in and do it. They will do it. I wouldn't say it if it hasn't happened. I sit next to support, just saying, okay? Or a group, a user, any of those constructs are very important. If you lost your user's OU and nobody could log in, that's a bad day, right? But the kind of the twisty part here is, it's one thing to bring an item back, and I don't know how many of you are deep Active Directory people, but if you bring an item back, you can recreate it or resume it from the tombstone or things like that, but you might have to lose the password. That depending on how it's brought back, a lot of different tools do it a lot of different ways. I know that if you did delete your whole OU of users, and everyone had to get a new password. Oh, and by the way, they use a unified messaging that's tied to their enterprise email, which is tied to their AD. They might not get their new password. Imagine the productivity loss if you deleted your whole OU of users. Now, this is just one thing, right? You could delete the whole VM. I've got a great story for that, too. So we have this thing called Veeam Explorer for Active Directory. Now, we're going to use the whiteboard here later with Luca, but we wanted to mix it up, a little bit of slideware, a little bit of showware, and I wanted to quickly show a demo of this new tool. I want to show you how destructive it can be. So bear with me real quick, because I want to do some nasty stuff, and I want to show you how bad it can get, yet how easy it can be recovered. So,
come on, Rick, you know I'm in charge of destruction.
Okay, so now I mentioned that Veeam Explorer for Active Directory is currently in beta, okay? So I actually am using the 7. Whatever's current with this little module, and for those of you looking at home, if you look at the Veeam blog, Chris Henley just wrote a blog post that tells you where you can get this beta if you're interested. Now, I have this KU demo domain, Karaoke Unlimited demo. If you guys follow me on Foursquare, that's where I check in. I'm trying to look for a little bit better name. But anyways, so what I've got here is this OU called Delegated Groups. Now I've got 2 things in there. That's not too crazy, right? But this delete button works great, and that yes button does it. Okay, so that deleted groups button is gone. And if that was something important that would be bad news. So what I'm actually going to do is crack open this tool here called Veeam Explorer for Active Directory. And I'm not hitting the stopwatch, but you guys can tell me if it's pretty quick or not.
Gotta find your domain controller.
I got to find my domain controller. I did it last night. So there it is.
Deleted it.
No, I didn't delete
Ellen
it.
always say, do a demo, lose a sale.
If anything, I have plenty of backups. That's the one thing I have going on, right? It's arguably in the ridiculous category, but what I have over here now, I've got Veeam Explorer for Active Directory Beta, and what I'm actually going to do is crack open this domain from this backup. Now, if you're familiar with Active Directory, there's the ntds.database, and basically I'm going to put all the intelligence on the restore. We have a backup engine. Honestly, in the 7 major versions, the biggest intelligence we've done other than change block tracking is the storage snapshot engine, but all the features come on the restore. So that processing engine who builds our backup, put the engine intelligence on the restore, keep the backup reliable and quick and efficient. That's how we roll. So when you crack open this database, I will see my delegated groups. AD group is still there. I'm going to restore it right back to where it came from, drop in the KU demo domain. The appropriate credentials, of course, are required. Now, this is actually a different domain because I'm doing some funky stuff there. It's going to give me all these attributes I can selectively restore. Now, here's where it gets awesome. I can take the password of that user and restore it back to what it was if there are any users in there. Or if it was a really bad day, maybe we had an organizational security compromise type of situation, I can reset everyone's and communicate it maybe another way to the organization. Or go the dirty route and just make everybody change. I have some options, or do not restore password, which sets it to the default of the domain. So account options, I could set them as a deleted or disabled user, and I should get 3 items inserted back into AD just this quickly. Okay, now if I go back over to my domain, I'm going to hit refresh, and my deleted groups is back with those 2 items inside of there. The 3 items were the OU and the. Now, one more quick.
Rick, just one thing
yeah,
I noticed
sure.
there. So that you can restore a user back as an inactive user.
That is an option to bring them in as a disabled user.
As a disabled
Yeah,
user.
depending on, see, that's the beauty of having many options out of a jam. It's one thing to bring everything back. A lot of times people think, oh, it's an image-based backup. You're just going to bring the whole VM back. I want to bring back options. Right now it's 27. This is the 27th, but really within there are many ways. Bring a user back disabled, bring them back with a new password, redirect them to another OU. You know, depending on what goes wrong, especially with this central nervous system of your data center, as it were, you might have some real problems, and I think it's really powerful myself.
Well, just looking at that, I was thinking more for legal discovery purposes.
Oh, yes, I'm going to get there. I've got some e-discovery situations as well. Now, this OU right here has 500 users in it. Now, I am not an automation guy, but I learned PowerShell just for this demo. That's why these users are kind of ugly. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to delete this whole OU, and there is something, okay, that OU is set up correctly. So I'm actually going to do it this way. I'm just going to do 502 objects.
Said no.
That's an excellent default to say no. So basically, I'm just destroying. Imagine if you had a bad admin, you know, as they're fired. I mean, they set a PowerShell script to do nasty things as they leave. I mean, these situations are real. And this would be a really bad day for the organization. Now, what I can do here is I should have started this a second ago. While that's deleting, I'm going to go back over to Justin's comment on e-discovery. And within here, I really have a picture of the domain objects at the time of their of the backup that I took. I can crack in there a little bit, Justin, and I can look for anybody with patterns in their object. I've got one person, one little hidden gem inside of this Active Directory domain with the word Darth Vader in it. And I found one user out of my 500, 600. He has a description called AKA Darth Vader. I'm searching all these different fields. Now, the best part is actually, if I look at this delegated users field, there's 500 of them. Sort by number here. I did a little example with user 2, and I purposefully sent some of the bad password counts higher. So imagine if you had an incident where and user 2 happens to be domain admin. That count will reset on a successful login. But if you need to backtrack a little bit, this kind of insight is actually, in my opinion, very powerful. And I say that because sometimes people don't have an enterprise tool in place. These are things that you don't necessarily expect from your backup product. That's why I think they're powerful. So that being said, let's see if those are deleted, and they are. I'm going to take all 502, and I'm going to restore them back to the KU demo domain, which I like that better than SSA, which I've demoed here before. I like KU demo. Totally an inside joke, everyone. But let's go ahead and I can, by the way, I glanced over this, but I could put them in a different OU. Very important if the day is really bad, if I need some other options. It's not just bring it back, it's bring it back under my terms as the admin. So 502 objects. Now, I should have reset my Windows security log, because what we're doing is using this native Active Directory tool called LDIFT. I don't know if any of you have scripted much, but LDIFT is basically a command line way in to Active Directory, and actually we're reading that ntdist.dat database and properly reconstructing these objects, including the password hash, through the native tools. Because it's been deleted, there's no worry about the USN being out of date because it's created correctly. It's not like I'm injecting some bizarre item because I'm using the proper framework. And if I go over here, refresh into delegated users, I should have a few, and I do, just like that.
Yay.
So I know that was quick and intense, and you guys might not be dealing with this, but I think when it comes to storage and virtualization, I think the apps are so important. You can't avoid that conversation. Spot check, what do you guys think of that?
Pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean, I think it solves a real problem. I think it's good stuff.
Several of them.
Rick,
Yeah.
what about if you upgrade your, or you, I can't know what you call it,
You raise your functional level of your domain or change from 2008 to 2012 R2. The correct thing to do really is take it all to a Veeam Virtual Lab, which is an element of vPower and Sure Backup. Test it there so you can go into it confidently in production. There was a tweet, a guy named Tim Price, Timit13 or something. I asked his permission to reproduce it, but basically he took his VMware vCenter 5.0 application server, one Active Directory domain controller, and his SQL Server database, put all three of those in a Veeam Virtual Lab, went through the vSphere upgrade process. Single sign-on was a real pain in the an opportunity for learning. Was an opportunity for learning on that release, and Tim had no issues with the production installation because he did it in the virtual lab. I think the system, like an Active Directory domain controller, to do those types of tests in a virtual lab first, great way to do it. You can even do recovery things like that in there. So that's honestly the hardest part of our product to learn, is the virtual lab. But once people just go at it, they usually get it, and that's what I would tell people to do. So that's the Active Directory bit. You can download it today for those watching at home at veeam.com. In the forums is where the link is put. You do have to be on the latest version of 7.